We are today doing Daf Yud Chet Amud Aleph. We are holding on Yud Zayin Amud Bet. We're gonna go over the last part what we did last time. So we're gonna try to do a lot today. So let's Be'ezrat Hashem get started. So the concept, the machloket that we're gonna discuss, just to make it easier, is Yesh Zika versus Ein Zika. What's this machloket? So one opinion says Yesh Zika. Yesh Zika means that when a woman is waiting to do Yibum, she's connected to the brothers. It's almost like she's married to them to a certain degree. And her relatives become asurim on the brothers. That's one understanding. Ein Zika means it's true, there's a connection, and she can't marry somebody else, but it's not like the connection is so strong that they're married. When she's waiting to do Yibum, there's no isurim of her relatives on the brother. That's the machloket. Yesh Zika versus Ein Zika.
Word of Zika means attached.
Yes, that's what the word of Zika means. Everyone agrees everyone agrees to the concept of Zika. This machloket of Yesh Zika versus Ein Zika means, is it that strong that it makes it as if they're married to a certain degree and her relatives are asurot on this man, or it's not that strong and no, her relatives are still mutarot. That's the nafkamina of this machloket. So Amar, if you look at the case that we have on the projector, so this kind of brings out this is where the machloket was said. Yehuda ben Betera against the Chachamim. You have two brothers married. One of them is married to one sister. The other one, he's not married yet. He did kiddushin to one sister.
Mama?
No, he just just regular kiddushin.
Uh-huh.
They decided to get this first couple got married. He said, I have a shidduch. My wife has a sister, so he does kiddushin to the sister. Then the first brother Reuven dies. Now the problem is, she's a shomeret yavam to him, but he cannot marry her sister now, or can he? Meaning, do we say, okay, let him marry the sister, and she goes out? There's no yibum or chalitza, or do we say no? He cannot marry the sister. He has to first do chalitza to her and then marry the sister, or he has to do yibum to her and then he's no longer allowed to marry the sister. Yeah. So that's the question. If you say Yesh Zika, that means she's almost like she's married to him when she falls to Yibum, and he has to get rid of that before he can marry the sister. Or do we say no? So either way, Amar Rav Huna. So Rav Huna is gonna first.
Yud Zayin,
yeah? Yeah, Yud Zayin Amud Bet. We're gonna go back to Amar. We did this, but we're gonna go back a little bit. So Rav Huna is the first to talk about. He talks about a different case. He talks about the Shomeret Yavam, she dies. The lady waiting in line to do Yibum, she dies. Question is now the brother allowed to marry her mother? So if you say that he's allowed to marry the mother, that means Ein Zika. It's not like when she fell to Yibum, she was married to him. There was no Isur relationship, and therefore, there's no, her relatives don't become Asur. Therefore, he's allowed to marry her mother now. So Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav, Shomeret Yavam Shemeta, if a Shomeret Yavam died, a lady waiting to do Yibum died, Mutar Be'ima, he's allowed to marry her mother. So Alma Kasavar Ein Zika, you see that he holds Ein Zika. The Zika is not strong enough to create an Isur on her mother, because when she dies, he's allowed to marry the mother. So the Gemara says, why didn't he just say that? Ulema Kasavar, Ulema Alacha Kedivrei Omer, Ein Zika. Why didn't Rav Huna just say, Halacha is like the opinion that says, Ein Zika. So the Gemara says, Yehava Amar Hachi, Yehava Amina Hani Mili Betre, Aval Bechad Yesh Zika. The Gemara says, if you would have just said, Halacha is like the opinion that Ein Zika, I would have thought, so when a lady falls to Yibum, and there's two brothers, then, okay, which one is she going to be considered married to? Which one is she going to have a complete Zika to? So therefore, he says Ein Zika. But if there's only one brother, maybe Yesh Zika. That's why he didn't say halacha is like the opinion of Ein Zika, because he wanted to be clear that even when there's only one brother, isurim of her relatives are not created. So the Gemara says, So he could have just said halacha is like the opinion ein zika, even when there's only one brother. Ein zika, the zika is not strong enough to create isurim on her relatives. So the Gemara says Yamar hachi hava amina afilu mechaim. If I would have said ein zika, if he would have said, if Rav Huna would have said halacha is like the opinion ein zika, even with one brother, then I would have thought, even when the Shomeret Yavam is still alive, he would be allowed to marry her mother. So Rav Huna is telling us that no, when she's alive, he's not allowed to marry her mother. Kamash malan, lachar mita'in, after the Shomeret Yavam dies, that's when he's allowed to marry her mother. Mechaim lo. But when she is still alive, he's not allowed to marry her mother. Now, why not? If there's no zikah and her falling to yibum does not make her mother asura, so why is he not allowed to marry her mother when she's alive? Mishum de asur levatel mitzvat yevamin, because it's asur to be mevatel the mitzvah of yibum. What's going to happen if he marries her mother? Now she becomes an erva. She becomes his wife's daughter, right? If a lady falls to him to yibum and he is mikadesh and marries her mother, so this lady is now going to be an erva. So in essence, what he's doing is he's making her an erva and getting himself out of the mitzvah of yibum chalitza. So that's, according to the opinion that we're saying here, that's asur. It's asur to be mevatel mitzvat yevamin. He's not allowed to be mevatel the mitzvah of yibum. Okay, Tanan. Yevimto shemeta. So now the Gemara is going to ask a question on this. It says Yevimto shemeta mutar ba'achota. If a lady who is a shomeret yavam, she's waiting in line to do yibum, and she dies, so the brother is allowed to marry her sister. So that kind of sounds like.
What is it?
So they don't have a picture of it here, so we can't put it on the board. But basically, the case is that a lady, regular case of yibum, a man died with no children, his wife falls to yibum, she dies. So the lady dies, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So the shomeret, the yavam, the brother, he's allowed to marry her sister.
Makes sense.
Right, even if they were fully married and she died, he's allowed to marry her sister. If a person's wife dies, he's allowed to marry the wife's sister.
Yeah.
So this kind of sounds like, well, it's true by his sister. If the sister dies, he can marry her sister, but not her mother. That's the diuk the Gemara wants to make. The Gemara wants to make
her mother.
Right. The Gemara wants to make a diuk against what Rav Huna said. Rav Huna said if she dies, you're allowed to marry her mother. The Gemara says, look, it says over here, if she dies, you're allowed to marry her sister. That's because sisters are different. Because even if he was fully married to a woman and she dies, he's allowed to marry her sister. But her mother, no. So the Gemara says, Yevimto shemeta, if the lady, the Shomeret Yavam, dies, mutar ba'achota, the brother is allowed to marry her sister. So the Gemara says, ba'achota in be'ima lo. It sounds like he's allowed to marry her sister, not her mother. So that's not like what Rav Huna said. So the Gemara says, no. Hu adin da afilu be'ima. Really, the truth is, it would be true by her mother also. He's allowed to marry her mother also. This, you just took one line out of a Mishnah. You can't make a diuk like that. The reason it says the case of sister is because the Gemara says, Ve'aidi detana reisha ishto shemeta mutar ba'achota. Since in the beginning of the Mishnah, it was talking about someone who was fully married. So by him, it's dafka, his wife that dies, he's allowed to marry the sister. But not the mother. In that case, it was davka sister, because it was talking about somebody who was married. This is talking about, the Mishnah brings a couple of cases. The first case of the Mishnah is talking about somebody who was fully married. Not yibum. Somebody who is married to a woman. If his wife dies, he's allowed to marry the sister, not the mother. That's because by sister, it says bechayeha in the pasuk. The isur is only when the sister is alive. When the sister is dead, when the wife is dead, he's allowed to marry the sister. That's gzerat katuv, only by sister. By other arayot, even if she dies, let's say by mother-in-law, even if his wife dies, he's not allowed to take his mother-in-law, even if she's single, right? So, Ishto Shemeta Buntar Bachota, since in the beginning it's talking about a case of marriage, and over there it's Davka, huh?
The mother-in-law is a stranger. When the wife died, the mother-in-law is like a stranger. So it doesn't have a case of Yevamot.
Okay, so that's what you, no, not, we're not talking about Yibum. Regular marriage.
Regular.
Somebody, right. So once, if the erva of mother-in-law is there even after his wife dies, she's still considered his mother-in-law, and that's a gzerat hakatuv. That's from the psukim. Okay, so either way, the purpose of this here is the Gemara is saying that since it says in the first case it's talking about somebody who's married, and it says ishto shemeta mutar ba'achota, that's specifically by sister. If his wife dies, he's allowed to marry his wife's sister. So ba'achota ein aval be'ima lo dehavila isur deoraita. That would be an isur deoraita to marry his wife's mother even after his wife dies. So Tananami Seifa mutar ba'achota. Therefore, the Seifa also says mutar ba'achota. Okay, so we already spent 10 minutes. We don't have so much time. We have to fly.
No question.
Okay. Rav Yehuda Amar Shomeret Yavam Shemeta Asur Beima. Rav Yehuda, he says that a Shomeret Yavam, a lady who's waiting to do Yibum, who dies, Asur Beima, he is not allowed to marry the mother. Meaning, he holds Yesh Zika. Alma Kasara Yesh Zika. He holds Yesh Zika because he holds that when she's waiting to do Yibum, it's Ki'ilu to a certain degree as if she's married to him, and her mother becomes Asura. Why didn't he just say halacha is like yesh zika? Why is he saying this specific case? So Gemara says, if he would have said yesh zika, I would have thought only when there's one brother yesh zika. Aval betre ain't zika, but maybe when there's two brothers, there's no zika. When the shomeret yavam is waiting and she falls to yibum to two brothers, maybe there's no zika. The Gemara says no. V'haki pligi betre pligi. The whole machloket of yesh zika and ain't zika is when there's two brothers. So he can't say if he would have said yesh zika, that would be by one brother. No, it obviously means by two brothers. That's where the machloket is. The machloket Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera and Rabbanan. Ella amar hachi. Rather, what's the reason that he didn't just say halacha is like the opinion yesh zika? Amar hachi. If he would have said yesh zika, hava amina mechayim. Avalach amita paka la zika. I would have thought that when the lady is alive, that's when he's not allowed to marry the mother. But after she dies, now there's no zika anymore, and he would be allowed to marry the mother of the shomeret yavam. So kamash malan de zika bechti lo paka. He's coming to teach us that no, without doing chalitza, the zika doesn't go away. Even if she dies, he's going to be muteret. He's going to be asura on her mother. It's as if it's like her mother-in-law. Okay, says the Gemara further. Okay, Lema Misaele. The Gemara wants to bring a proof to the opinion that says Yesh Zika, that when a lady falls to Yibum, it's as if she is married to him to the extent that her relatives would become Asur on him, on the brother. So Yevimto Shemeta Mutar Ba'achota. So Ba'achota in Be'ima Lo. Right, this is the same question same Mishnah that we brought before to ask on Rav Huna. We're bringing this as a proof to Rav Yehuda that it says that if a lady Shomeret Yavam dies, the brother is allowed to marry her sister. It sounds like he's allowed to marry her sister, not her mother. That means Yesh Zika, right? That like what Rav Yehuda is saying. So the Gemara says, Huadin. The Gemara says, really, the truth is it could be that even her mother he is allowed to marry. Since in the Reisha of the Mishnah, where it's talking about somebody who is married, if he's married to a woman and she dies, he's allowed to marry her sister. Over there it's specifically sister and not her mother. Because her mother would be an Isur Deoraita. His wife who died, her mother would be Asur Mideoraita to him. So Tananami Seifa Mutar Ba'achota. So therefore the Seifa, when it's talking about Yibum, it just continues the same format as the Reisha, even though technically he would be allowed to marry her mother also of the Shomeret Yavam who died, but it just mentioned sister because in the Reisha it also was referring only to his sister. Mativ Rav Huna Bar Chia. So Rav Huna Bar Chia asks on this. Asaba ma'amar vemet. Let's say the brother did ma'amar. Okay, so this is going back to our Mishnah. The case was you have two brothers. One of them, there's really three brothers, two brothers now. One of them died. Yeah, you have over here Reuven. He died. His brother did ma'amar, and then his brother died. Okay, Levi was born after Reuven died.
It's like yesterday.
Yeah, this is the case from the Mishnah. Okay, so Reuven dies, Levi is born, Shimon does ma'amar. Okay, so and then Shimon dies. So this lady, if you say ma'amar is like a real marriage, so then this lady, Shimon's original wife, becomes a tzarat erva. Okay, but since ma'amar is really nothing, she's really the erva, because she's eshet ach shelo haya be'olamo of Levi. So Reuven's wife would be asurat Levi, and this lady, Shimon's wife, would need yibum or chalitza. So we're on that.
Ma'amar, I don't know. Ma'amar, is it?
Ma'amar is only midrabanan. It's really machloket beit shamayim behillel.
Okay.
It's machloket beit shamayim behillel. How effective it is, which we're gonna get to later on in the masechet. But for what we need to know right now, in our Mishnah, ma'amar is not really anything because we're going like beit hillel. Ma'amar makes it that Shimon's wife cannot do yibum, but she still requires chalitza. There's still some sort of zika. So mativ Rav Huna. So Rav Huna is asking. We're on Yud Chet Amud Aleph. First one line is mutar, and that's the mativ Rav Huna. So Rav Huna is asking, according to the opinion that says yesh zika. So he has a question. It says that asaba ma'amar vemet. If Shimon in this case did ma'amar to Reuven's wife, and then he died. So what was the halacha? Choletzet v'lo mityavet. Shniya choletzet v'lo mityavet. Shimon's wife does chalitza and not yibum, but you still see she requires chalitza. So Gemara says ta'amad avad ba'ma'amar. Halo avad ba'ma'amar. Shniya nami yibum miyavma. So the Gemara says, what's the whole reason that Chana, Shimon's wife, cannot do yibum to Levi, to the third brother over here? Because he did ma'amar. If he wouldn't have done ma'amar, then Chana would be allowed to do yibum to Levi. Now, says the Gemara, listen to the question, it says, Vi amrat yesh zika. If you say yesh zika, let's plug in yesh zika. Yesh zika would mean that she, Reuven's wife, is connected to Shimon, and it's ki'ilu to a certain degree as if they're married, and therefore havi alat sarat eshet achiv shelo haya ba'olamo bezika. She would be a tzara to her because they have a zika together, right? So she is an erva to Levi, and she has a zika to Shimon. So since she has a zika over here to Shimon, and she becomes a tzarat erva through the zika.
But Shimon died.
Before Shimon dies, she has a zika to him, and Shimon has another wife. So she becomes a tzarat erva through the zika, and she should be asura to Levi. We don't say that. That means we don't say yesh zika. If we would have said yesh zika, then she should be a tzarat erva through the zika. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabba, hu adin. The Gemara says, no, really, even if he wouldn't have done ma'amar, it's true. She only does chalitza, not yibum. Meaning, since there is really yesh zika, there is a zika, and this Reuven's wife is connected to Shimon, and it's ki'ilu as if they're married, so Shimon's wife becomes a tzarat erva through this zika, and that would already stop her from doing yibum. Meaning, really, lav dafka in our Mishnah, does it have to be that he did ma'amar? Even if he did not do ma'amar, his wife would not be allowed to do yibum to Levi because she's a tzarat erva through the zika. So the Gemara says, V'adiktani ma'amar la'afuke mi beit Shammai. And that which it says specifically a case of ma'amar is coming to tell us not like Beit Shammai, da'amri ma'amar kone kinyan gamur. The Beit Shammai says ma'amar is a complete kinyan, and Shimon's wife would be pitura from chalitza as well. Kamash malan, that we don't say that she still requires chalitza. So basically what we tried to do, we tried to ask a question on Rav Yehuda, who says yesh zika. We tried to prove from our Mishnah, ein zika, but we rejected the proof. So, Eit ve'Abaye. Abaye now asks. Okay, here. There it is. So, Shnei achin be'olam echad. You have two brothers that they're alive at the same time. Umet echad mehem belo velad. One of them dies. So you have over here Reuven and Shimon. Reuven dies with no children. Va'amad hasheni hazeh la'asot ma'amar. This second brother, Shimon was going to do ma'amar. Be'yevimto, to the lady, to the Yevama. V'lo he speak la'asot ba'ma'amar ad shenolad lo ach v'met. He was trying to do ma'amar. He couldn't do ma'amar. And then a brother was born before he did ma'amar. So it's very similar to the case of our Mishnah.
I don't understand.
The point is, it's a very simple case. You have Reuven and Shimon who are alive at the same time. Reuven dies. Shimon didn't do anything yet. Levi is born. That's it.
Shimon makes a ma'amar.
He didn't make ma'amar. He wanted to do ma'amar. Nothing happened. He didn't do it yet. He was waiting to do ma'amar. All of a sudden, new brother.
But you could do Ivun.
He didn't do. We'll get to what ma'amar. Don't get so caught up on ma'amar. We'll get to what ma'amar is later when the time comes. Right now, let's try to focus on the agenda of the Gemara. So he didn't do ma'amar. Ad shenolad lo ach. A brother was born. V'met. And then Shimon died. So this is a classic case of Eshet Ach Shelo Haya Ba'olamo, right? The Reuven's wife is Eshet Ach Shelo Haya Ba'olamo of Levi, but there was no ma'amar done here. So Harishona Yotza Mishum Eshet Achiv Shelo Haya Ba'olamo. This first lady, Reuven's wife, she does not do Yibum or Chalitza to Levi because she's Eshet Ach Shelo Haya Ba'olamo. Reuven died before Levi was born. Vishniya, but Shimon's wife, choletzet o mityavem. She could do chalitza or yibum because she's not a tzarat erva. Shimon didn't do any ma'amar, nothing. This very much sounds like ein zika. It sounds like there's no connection between Shimon and Reuven's wife, and therefore Shimon's wife does yibum and chalitza. The Gemara says we have a question over here. If you say yesh zika, so have yalat tzarat esh tachiv shelo haya ba'olamo bezika. This Reuven's wife has a zikah to Shimon, and Shimon's wife will be the tzara of Reuven's wife, who's an erva. So she's a tzarat eshet ach shelo haya ba'olamo through the zikah that Reuven's wife has to Shimon. So the Gemara says, you're right. You see from there, ein zikah. But Hamani Rabbi Meir here, damar ein zikah. That Mishnah is going according to the opinion, that Braita is going according to the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Actually, later on in the Braita, it says that that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. So that's Rabbi Meir's opinion that says Ein Zikah. Says the Gemara, Umisvir Rabbi Meir Ein Zikah. You're going to tell me Rabbi Meir holds Ein Zikah. We have a few minutes to zip through. You're going to tell me Rabbi Meir holds Ein Zikah V'atanan. We have the following case. Arba'a achim, shnai mehem nisuin shtei achayot, v'metu hanisuin et achayot, hare elu chotzot lo mityavmot. Cases, two brothers married two sisters. Those two brothers both die. So now you have Reuven and Shimon were married to Rachel and Leah. Reuven and Shimon both die. Rachel and Leah are kind of stuck because they cannot do Yibum. Why? Because they each have a zikah to each one of the brothers. So there's each one is going to be achot zikukato, the sister of the lady who has a zikah. So we say in the Braita over here, or in the Mishnah, we say they do chalitza, not yibum. Now that's because it sounds like yesh zikah. It sounds like Leah has a zikah to Yehuda, so Rachel is the sister of the one who has a zikah to, and vice versa. So the Gemara says, if you tell me Rabbi Meir holds ein zikah, hani mitrei batikat. These two girls came from two different husbands. So highly yavim chadav. If there's no zikah, if ein zikah, and it doesn't create any isurim of relatives, so let one brother do yibum to one sister, and one brother do yibum to the other sister. So the Gemara says, leolam ein zikah. Really, it's true, ein zikah. So why is it that the one brother can't do yibum to one sister and the other brother can't do yibum to the other sister. Because we're worried he's going to be mevatel mitzvah yibum. How? Let's play it out. Let's say Levi over here, he does yibum to Rachel. Okay? So really this lady now, Leah, could do yibum to Yehuda. But let's say Mait Idach. Now Yehuda is going to die before he gets a chance to do Yibum. So you just messed this lady over in the sense that you're mevatel the mitzvah of Yibum. Because now you put her in a position where she's not going to require Yibum or Chalitza. Since you did Yibum to her sister, if she falls to you to Yibum, then you're done. You can't do it. So you're in a way mevatel the mitzvah of Yibum. Therefore we say you do Chalitza, so therefore both of them are going to be taken care of, and you did chalitza to both of them. Ve'idach kabad la mitzvat yivamin, and to the other girl you're going to be mevatel the mitzvah of yibum. Okay, ve'i en zika tibatel. The Gemara says, okay, so what? Be mevatel the mitzvah of yibum. Let her be put in a situation where she's not obligated to do yibum or chalitza anymore. Who cares? If you say en zika, then it should be that should go in hand. That should go with that. The Rabban Gamliel Amar Ein Zika. Rabban Gamliel says Ein Zika. Mutar levatel mitzvah yibum, and he says that it's mutar to be mevatel the mitzvah of yibum. How do we know this? Ditnan. Rabban Gamliel Omer im miana ve'im lo miana tamtin ad shetagdil. So the case is like this. Okay, you have two brothers. Simple case. Two brothers. Older brother, younger brother. Okay, older brother married the older sister, who's a gdola. She's 15, 20, whatever. Then younger brother married a ktana. She's 10 years old. He's 13. She's 10. Okay. So now the case is she can do miyun. So if the older brother dies, we have to kind of figure out what's going to be here, because if he's considered married to the ktana, once she gets older and she stays with him, she doesn't have yibum or chalitza anymore.
Yeah.
Because she's going to be his wife's sister. He can't do yibum to his wife's sister. If she does miyun and she says, I'm out, because she's not bar mitzvah yet, she could walk out of the marriage if her father didn't give the kiddushin, like we learned before. So then he was never married to her. That marriage never happened, and he's allowed to do yibum to her sister. So Rabban Gamliel says, the first opinion, Chachamim say, no, we have to teach her do miyun, get out of the marriage, so he can do the mitzvah of yibum. We don't want to be mevatel the mitzvah of yibum. Rabban Gamliel says, no, you don't force her to do anything. Im miana, miana. If she did miyun, great, she did miyun. Ve'im lo miana. And if she didn't do miyun, tamtinat shetagdil. So this one has to wait until she gets old enough to finalize the marriage, until she becomes 12, another year, whatever, however long it is, until she becomes 12. She can't do miyun anymore. This marriage is complete. And she's piturah. She goes out and marries whoever she wants.
It's not considered achot grushato if she does miyun. It's not really.
No. And she'll be in achot isha. She'll be his wife's sister, and she'll go out. No yibum, no chalitza required. So the Gemara says, Amale de Rabban Gamliel ad Rebbe Meir karamet. He said, well, you're asking for Rabban Gamliel on Rebbe Meir? So the Gemara says, lo, achika amrinan. Really, you can't ask from Rabban Gamliel on Rebbe Meir. They're two different people. Just because Rabban Gamliel holds that it's mutar to be mevatel mitzvah of yibum doesn't mean Rebbe Meir holds that. So the Gemara says, lo hach kamrin. Rebbe Meir chayish afilu lisfeka. Rebbe Meir is worried even about a safek, because he said in the case where, Rebbe Meir said even in a case where Rebbe Meir was worried, we said that. Sorry. What was Rebbe Meir's case? Right, two brothers married to two sisters. This case. Right, Rebbe Meir was worried that this brother, if he does yibum, this brother will die and she'll not be allowed to do yibum or chalitza. So it's like a safek. So Rebbe Meir is worried even about a safek, and Rabban Gamliel, even about a vadai case, he's not worried. So the Gemara says, that's not a question. Rebbe Meir, who's not worried about Rabban Gamliel, who's not worried about being mevatel the mitzvah of yibum, even in a case where you're vadai being mevatel the mitzvah of yibum, he doesn't care. Uman de chayish, and the opinion that is worried about it, Rabbi Meir, afilu sfeka chayish, he's worried even in a safek case, maybe it'll lead to being mevatel the mitzvah of yibum. Still, he's worried about it. Okay, so we're going to stop here, and Be'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow continue. This was a bit of a hard amud, not the easiest amud over here, but not so bad.